everything you want in this business will come from a power start. Now, in my national area, we focus on the perfect 10. And it's 10 classes of 3 people each minimum. And the only reason I recognize them on top of their power start for a perfect 10 is that it is possible to run around and do 30 individual faces. But in my opinion, you're just working too hard. And what we want to learn is how to work smart and not so hard. And Mary Kay will tell you, and anyone who's been in Mary Kay for any length of time, is that the individual faces are a new thing. Okay, and I don't think that you should say, I am just so sorry, I do not have time for you as your only one face. Okay, that is not what I'm saying here. But what I'm saying is that if you will incent your guests to bring friends and to become hostesses, it will allow you to be much more efficient and effective with your time. And I refuse to buy into the nonsense that people just don't hold classes anymore. People do not hold classes anymore because they are not properly incented to hold classes. And remember, you get what you're looking for. And how many of you, if it just came down to it, like seriously, like if your life depended on it, like as if you didn't do it, someone would set your house on fire when you got home, you could go home and book 10 classes. Okay, one of you would keep your house from burning down? One out of this whole room? I mean, come on, okay? So, you know, I call those, how many of you could find a guilt hostess? Do you know what I mean by a guilt hostess? Like you could kind of guilt her into hosting a class. And not that you're making her feel bad, but that you know women are helpers. And they will go above and beyond things that they would not do for themselves to help you reach a goal. Okay? And again, even, you know, my first power start very quickly came to a power stop because I had not cared enough to prepare and mastered the skill of rebooking. Like that was a whole new concept to me after my first power start. And that is my own fault because I didn't take time to read the starter kit. And had I opened it up and actually read the chapters on booking and holding skincare classes and working your business, there's a whole section on the art of rebooking. How many of you knew that? It's amazing. This stuff works, okay? And here's the thing is that I went through my first power start and then there was nothing left and I had to start over. And I could either get out and meet people that I didn't know, or I could call back the first hostess and go, thank you so much for that first skincare class. It was amazing. You helped me out so much I can't even tell you. And now that I know what I'm doing, you're going to love the next one even more. Okay, or how many of you know someone who could say, listen, I know that Mary Kay is something that you would probably never consider for yourself, and that is perfectly okay with me, but I need your help. And I'm working on a really, 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 really big goal. And I'm in a contest, and I must win. And I need your help. And I'm really not going to take no for an answer, so just go ahead and name your price. What would it take to make it worth your while to be a hostess for me? I will do everything to make you look so good. All I need you to help me with is the guest list. Which is better for you, this weekend or next? Could you say that? Absolutely you could, okay? And how many of you, seriously, let me just say this. I want you to write this down. I'm totally going to step out on a limb here, okay? And I was about to say I can safely go back to Texas, but that's not true. I even get to go further away than Texas, okay? I safely get to go 3 hours in 3 different time zones safely away to a different coast after I say this. No one likes a wimpy woman. No one likes a wimpy woman. No one wants a puny consultant. Girls, where is our spine? And I'm not talking about being obnoxious and being pushy and being mean and being rude, but what I'm talking about is where you have an air of confidence about you that people are attracted to you. And they don't know exactly what's going on over there, but there's this curiosity that they can't seem to escape because clearly you're enjoying yourself. And you're doing something right because you have the life of joy and abundance that you live. Are you hearing what I'm saying here? But there does come a time when we just got to fake it till we make it. And there is a difference between faking it and what? And being fake. That's right. There's a difference between faking it and being fake. So I'm not saying that you have to be anybody else but you to succeed. But how many of you could take it up a notch? Okay? Now let's talk about that for a quick second because it's a good time for us to talk about the danger of comparing yourself to other people. And I can't tell you the number of times that I have heard people say to me, well, if only. Well, if only my situation were different, or if only I were young, or if only I didn't have a job, or if only my husband were supportive, or if only I didn't have any kids. Can I just say to you with every ounce of love in my being, so what? Because I truly believe 100% that God has you exactly where He wants you right now for a very specific purpose. And if we would stop wasting so much energy wishing things were different and just be willing to bloom where we're planted, we would have a completely different outlook, which would give us completely different results. Do you agree? And the scoreboard can sometimes be a dangerous thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I am very motivated by the scoreboard. I love the scoreboard. But the danger with the scoreboard is that it doesn't tell the story behind the numbers. And it's so easy just to look at someone and look at their numbers or look at their situation and go, oh. And we beat ourselves up all day long because you know what happens when we compare. We compare our weaknesses to their strengths, and we never measure up. And that's not a Mary Kay thing, y'all. That's a human nature thing. That's just part of working as women. Working with women is that by nature we tend to compare ourselves to other people. And we just can't do that. We must be willing to learn from other people and see, okay, you know what? If she can do that with those circumstances, it really plants belief in me that I can do some pretty incredible things too. And because this is a repeatable business plan and it's a repeatable process, there's nothing she can do that I can't do if I'm willing to do the work, right? And I tell you, it makes me so sad that every time, I mean, never fails, the number of times that I'll be talking to a sales director who maybe has been in Mary Kay longer than me, who is not a national sales director yet, and immediately we meet, and she starts explaining herself to me and rationalizing why she's still a sales director, why she's not a sales director yet, or why she's not a national sales director yet. And girls, that's not what it's all about. This isn't a race. Far more important than how fast you do it is how well you do it. Because records are made to be broken. But a legacy of excellence will not be quickly forgotten. And so it's so important that we decide who we want to be. Not who the world thinks we should be, not who anybody else expects us to be. But when all is said and done, who do we want to be? And I remember very distinctly at that very first seminar I ever attended, I sat down and literally made a list of all the different national sales directors that I admired and respected and looked up to. And you know what? I'm a big believer that if any teacher is ever placed in front of me, she was placed there for a very specific purpose. I don't care what her accolades say or what her title says. If she is there, there is something I can learn from her. And so I have the utmost respect for every sales director and every national sales director in this company because we each have our own story and our own journey. The truth is that not everyone wants to hear our story until we have earned the platform from which to share it. But I remember making this list of the nationals that had been placed in my path and that I had respect for and that I admired and that I could specifically relate to. And I remember making the list of all of the qualities about them that I admired and all of the qualities that I wanted to emulate personally. And then I had a very distinct choice to make because the list was long. And I could either decide, I don't have these qualities. I guess I'm just not cut out for this. And you know what? If I had these qualities, I could be successful too. Or I could say, you know what? I got a lot of work to do. Let's get started. And it's not an overnight process. It's a lifelong journey. And how fast and how far you move in this business are totally dependent on how much we are willing to learn and grow and make changes where necessary. How much are you willing to learn and grow and make changes where necessary? Now, I've given you my 4 secrets to success. I hope you're not too disappointed at the simplicity. Because if you hear nothing else from me today, that's what I want you to take home. Is that this business is simple. As women, we have a tendency to overcomplicate things. Would you agree? Yeah. Now, notice I said this business is simple. I did not say that it is easy, because easy implies that it requires little to no effort. But it is extremely, extremely simple. And you know what? Life is as simple or as complicated as we allow it to be. And the danger of the gray area is it's the hardest place to live. Because if you decide to live in excellence, but you're just dancing around that line between mediocrity and excellence, first of all, you still see all your friends stuck in mediocrity, right? And they're very enticing. And it's work to hover right there above the line because you can see excellence, but you're closer to mediocrity. And mediocrity is comfortable. Mediocrity is safe. We know what it feels like to live in mediocrity. So trust me when I tell you that just dancing around that line is the hardest place to be. But you know what? There are some people that are stuck so far down here in the misery, like they are like on the floorboard of mediocrity. Remember when I said mediocre is miserable? They are so far down there that they don't even know there is a line. Okay? And you know what? It's not our job to change their mind. You are not in the business of changing people's minds. You are in the business of finding people who want change. Whether it's with our products or our services, we are not in the business of changing people's minds. We are in the business of finding people who want change. Okay, so those friends and loved ones of ours that are stuck so far down there on the floorboard of mediocrity that they don't see the line, they don't care that there is a line, they have no desire to find the line, it's okay. And the best thing that we can do for them is love them where they are and let them go. Okay, so there are those people down there. They're the people dancing around the line. But guess what? When you choose to take the flying leap over the line, and you do decide to daily live in excellence, guess what? I can't even imagine wanting to go back. I can't even imagine thinking that that life that I used to live would be acceptable. I just can't imagine it. And guess what? Those friends of mine who I still love very much, who are still over on the other side of the line, guess what they say to me? I don't want to work that hard. They say, you know, I just don't think I want to work that hard. I just don't think I want to work, is what they're really saying. Because they have no idea what my life is like. They have no idea that when I look back at the work that it took for me to get here, I don't even blink at it. Because the benefits you reap are 100-fold. You just can't even begin to imagine. This Escalade that I'm about to pick up, shut up, okay? I mean, seriously. There are things on this car, crazy, okay? Like, I mean, I knew I had heard in passing, you know, that there are, as a national sales director, you get the Cadillac with every option that it makes. I'm like, oh, that's sweet, you know, great, whatever. Maybe it'll have like a heated seat or something. Like, I really didn't even understand. I was not thinking big enough, okay? And I consider myself to be a pretty big thinker. But this Cadillac, just for those of you that might ever desire to have an Escalade, a pink Escalade one day, not only does it have heated seats and, of course, air conditioning seats, but it also has a heated and air-conditioned steering wheel. I mean, heaven forbid my hands should get hot, okay? And the windshield wiper fluid is heated, okay? And then it's got, you know, of course it's got the, I mean, why would I expect it to have anything less than the flat screen, widescreen, high definition, you know, DVD players that like come, whoa, you know, like out of the dashboard, okay? And then I had to choose, did I want bench seats or bucket seats in the second row or the third row? I can't remember which rows I was deciding between. But here's the thing, okay? I went ahead and I accepted the flat screens in the headrests, you know, behind my seat. Because, I mean, I don't really have anybody to ride around with me in the Cadillac. I mean, James doesn't ride in the back seat, you know? But if somebody ever were to get in the back seat, I mean, what would they do if they didn't have a TV show to watch? So we went ahead and got that, you know, checked that box. But here's what I was not expecting. Like, heaven forbid if we find enough friends in California like to fill both rows of seats with people. What if the people on the back row had to look over the heads of the people on the second row to see the screen on the back of my chair? So we went ahead and checked the box that the second row behind it would have its own flat screen as well. Okay, so we've got 3 rows of flat screen, widescreen, high definition in the car. Okay, and this car costs more than a house should cost. Okay, I mean, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. But you know what? I'll take it. Okay, so when it is extremely hard to burst my bubble. Because when you live in a pink bubble and you drive around in a pink bubble, people can tell me all day long that Mary Kay don't work. But I'm still going to drive home in my pink bubble. Right? So, I remember reading a quote from Venus Williams. Do y'all know who she is? And she said, commitment is when you believe in your goal, even when everyone around you tells you it's time to quit. And I don't know about y'all, but I think we're just getting started. So, in addition to my 4 secrets to success, I have a 3-step formula. I told y'all I'm a numbers person. But here's the funny thing. I am so not a numbers person. You know, you're either right brain or left brain. You think in numbers, you think in words, whatever the case may be. I loathe math. Loathe it. Hate it. Despise it. Was not ever successful in it in school. I did enough to get by, okay? But in this business, girls, the numbers pay the bills. So if you are in my world of not a natural numbers person, I want you to raise your hand. Keep it up, raise it up really, 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 really high, okay? Not numbers people. And we are going to say 3 words together. And those words are, get over it. Here we go. Get over it. Okay? Because the numbers pay the bills. So here is your 3-step formula to making your dreams a reality. Number 1, you must have your big dream. Please, you can never underestimate the power of a dream that you believe in. Number 2, you have to add to that big dream a sense of urgency. Have you ever heard the phrase that fast is easy, slow is never? That does not mean that it's a bad thing if you've been in Mary Kay a long time and haven't reached your goal yet. That's not what that means. What it means is that there is power in momentum. And it's never too late to get some. Okay? So you got to have your big dream. You've got to have your sense of urgency. And then number 3, you got to have a little bit of elbow grease. You just can't be afraid to roll up your sleeves and get dirty. I don't know why we're so afraid of hard work. I mean, what are we afraid of? We're just used to being lazy? Zig Ziglar said that there's no such thing as a lazy person, but we just haven't found what motivates us. Because until we get uncomfortable enough with where we are, we will not be willing to go through the pain of change. So with your big dream, with a sense of urgency, and with a little bit of elbow grease, there is nothing that you can't accomplish in this world. There is nothing. You know, Mary Kay said you can have anything you want in life if you're willing to work hard enough and pay the price. And do you remember me telling you a little while ago that I never had a gold medal? Remember a little while ago that I told you I've never been the one on the National Court of Sales that has 500 customers? Remember a little while ago when I told you I was never on the National Court of Sharing? Would you like to know how I got here anyway? Sometimes I wonder the same thing myself. You know, to this day, when I look at myself in this suit in the mirror, I'm like, it's true. Because there are days still that I think, okay, seriously? I've got to stop talking because somebody is going to figure out that I have no clue what I'm doing. And I am just here to tell you, it's okay to feel that way sometimes. And even through all that self-doubt that we have and that negative self-talk that we have, do you know enough to take the next step? And then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And that is my only answer for how I got here, is consistency. Is that when everyone around me quit, I kept going. Do you know of the 1,500 women in my national area? I only knew 2 of them before I started Mary Kay. I did know 3, but one of my best friends sold back her product. And what if I had let the fact that she gave up on her dream, what if I had let that steal my dream? You have to believe so strongly in what you're doing that even when everyone else around you quits, not only do they quit themselves, they tell you it's time to quit. You keep going. Because whose life are they living? Theirs or yours? And who is sitting on the committee that's voting on your life? Because I think far too often the committee is too big. Would you agree? Yes. And the Bible says seek wisdom, and the Bible says seek wise counsel. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the person with the loudest voice. Right? So you've got to have consistency. And let me share with you, when I tell you that of my national area as it stands today, I only know 2 people. And I did know 3, one of them sold back her product. A lot of people assume that means that I was therefore a warm chatter queen. And I will be honest with you, I could probably count the number of times I've warm chattered on my 2 hands and 2 feet. I was a warm chatter chicken. Okay? I loathed it. I talked myself into despising it. I don't know why. I mean, nobody had ever punched me, whenever I had tried to talk to them. I don't know where I got it from, but it's this thing I talked myself into. And so, I would tell people, consultants or whatever, that I would rather have my teeth pulled without Novocaine than to have to warm chatter. But guess what else? And I told you I haven't done it very often. Okay, but I remember National Sales Director Pam Shaw told me one day, she said, top people, highly successful, highly achieving people, do not stand behind a line of what they are unwilling to do. Okay? So long as it's morally and ethically acceptable. Y'all are with me on that, right? Top people do not stand behind a line of what they are unwilling to do. So I want to ask you, what is it that you have been unwilling to do so far that has held you back from the life that you want to live? Because usually it's that one thing that we're not doing that we know good and well will make the biggest difference. So let me tell you two things. Would you like to know how I did this without warm chatter and without knowing people? Because it doesn't really seem that there would be a third option. But here's the deal. Okay, my thoughts on warm chatter have changed over the past year and a half or so. But let me tell you what happened before, because I was an executive senior sales director before I even thought it was a good idea. Okay? But I say that, and half of my DIQ team came from warm chatter. Now let me explain what I'm talking about here, okay? I also call it conversational booking. I've changed the name of it to myself. Okay? I just don't like the name warm chatter. So I call it conversational booking. If you ask any of my consultants about warm chatter, they won't know what you're talking about because we call it conversational booking. Okay? Because that's really what it is, don't you think? So when I realized that my power start had come to a power stop and I had to find other people to work with. I had just moved to Dallas when I had started Mary Kay, just a couple of years prior. All my friends and family were 6 hours south of us. I would have been fired at the bank if they knew what I was doing. I was in graduate school with all men, and we had just moved into a new neighborhood where literally there were like 4 other houses in dirt. Okay, so I didn't have a lot of just obvious circles to pull from. So I had to figure out how to build this business from scratch. And that's why I really do believe that a lot of women feel stronger at the beginning working with people they don't know because there's not that emotional attachment, okay, of the relationships. But I was terrified of talking to people I didn't know, but I also refused to let that stop me. So I realized I had to be willing to step out of my comfort zone, but by golly, if I could get that one face booked, I would not leave it without another booking. So I got really good at developing those relationships. And I got really good at rebooking classes from classes. And my single biggest objective at every facial, at every class, more than the sales, more than the recruiting, more than anything, was that they would fall in love with me. Because I began to understand that if they loved me, if they trusted me, if they had a relationship with me, they would be open to whatever else it was that I had to offer. And so I really developed the skill of rebooking classes, but girls, it came from the skincare class to the stuffed animals. It came from closing myself in the mirror. It came from listening to the CDs and writing out the scripts until I thought my hand was going to fall off. Because whenever I thought about quitting, about, this just isn't worth it. It's just too much work. I had the sense to compare my options. And whenever I took a good look at my other options, this started to look really good all over again. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And What I do not mean is that you go home and wait until you're good to book the classes. What I mean is that you go home and you book the classes before you even get home. And then you make darn sure that by the time the class rolls around, that you are prepared. And if literally, at worst case scenario, it takes a couple of sleepless nights for you to get those scripts under your belt, in the long term, is it worth it? You bet it is. Because once you get it down once, it will carry you the rest of the road that you want to travel down. Okay? So that consistency and that discipline. You know, the mission statement of the Lamar National Area is that we are building an area of women who are independently successful, financially stable, and emotionally healthy in order to wage war on mediocrity in our own little circle of influence. And I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about, you know what? I will freely and willingly share that mission statement with you. And I want you to think about that. What if you were to confidently stand in the knowledge that you were independently successful, financially stable, and emotionally healthy? Because as sales directors, and for those of you who your dream is to become a sales director, our job as directors is to help other people's dreams come true. And do I sometimes laugh that we do that through a tube of lipstick? Sure I do. You know, it's kind of silly sometimes when we think about how the two can relate to each other. But you know what? We have the #1 best-selling brand of skincare and cosmetics in this country. Do we not? Yes. But what's the mission statement of Mary Kay? To enrich women's lives. And you can only do that so much through a good cleanser. But I love our products because they open the door to build relationships so that you can have a chance at their heart. Because when you change her life and when you change when you really help someone else step into independently successful, financially stable, and emotionally healthy, not only does that change her, but it changes everyone in her circle of influence. And it changes her children, and it changes her family, and it changes her future. And you know what? Satan wants your circle of influence to be a very small place. And he will do his best, girls, to back you into a corner. And he's not going to do it through, hey, why don't you go out and commit murder? Okay, he's smarter than that. He's been around a while. But he could say, I don't think this is for you. Your husband really isn't that supportive. You really don't have this booking thing down. I just don't know if you're in the right market. Is it worth it? You're not as young as the other people in your unit meeting. God doesn't care how old you are. If he was done with you, he'd have taken you home by now. Do you hear what I'm saying? Do I need to say it more clearly? Stop buying into the lie. Whatever it is, it's just not worth it. And there will come a day when we are called to answer to what we've done with what we have been given. Not with what the person next to us has been given. Not to what her obstacles were. Not to what her circumstances and situations were. But ours. And what did Mary Kay always say if someone asked her, how can I repay you? How can I thank you for what you've done? Pass it on. That's exactly right. She would say, pass it on. And that is what this is our Lamar area pin. It's a double star. This is my gift to all my sales directors. Our unit started off as Allison's All-Stars, and so now we've become the All-Star area, and this pin represents Mary Kay's request that we always pass it on. And I think sometimes even we buy into the lie of feeling guilty about that. You know, I had a conversation with a director the other day, and she said, gosh, I just don't know. I mean, do you always feel like you're having to talk people into things? Do you feel like you're always trying to get people to do something? If you can get people to sign up, if you can get people to buy a product? Okay, here's the thing. When we're thinking those thoughts, we're back sucked into being emotionally driven, okay? Because business is business. And no matter what kind of business that you're in, recruiting is involved, okay? If you're a college, you're recruiting new students. If you're a church, you're recruiting new members. If you are a professional team, you're recruiting new players. If you're Starbucks, you're recruiting new patrons, right? Okay, do people at Starbucks cry and quit and sell back their store because some people shop at Seattle Coffee House? No. Why do we do that? That is business. If you do not grow, your business will die. Period. Bottom line, end of story. Right? And we have the huge luxury that as long as baby girls are being born and lip gloss is being made, we're good. But we make it so hard on ourselves, okay? Let me tell you about this other pin while I'm talking about my outfit. This pin right here to the rest of the world might look like a little gold shovel. But this pin represents our focus of always digging deeper. Digging deeper both in business and in life. And so much of the world just gives up too easily. And I'm a big believer that there is a solution to everything if you are just willing to dig deep enough. And here's the thing, Mary Kay has so many incredible tools and resources available to us. And why is it that we are out in the backyard with bloody fingernails digging with our bare hands? Instead of just using the tools that we've been given. And I think that if we will just go back home at the end of the day today and take a new, fresh look with that new spirit of gratitude and appreciation for what we have and what we are able to do, how many of you would be looking truly at a completely different set of circumstances than you left at home today? Isn't that exciting? You just had to come sit and look cute and you go home to a whole new world. It's all about the way that you look at it. So what I'd like to do is share with you a strategic plan to get from where you are to where you want to be. Sound good? In the business world, strategic planning by definition takes place on an annual basis. This was part of my job responsibility at the bank. They did not have me count the money or do any of the number crunching. Remember, I am not a numbers person by nature. My job was to make the stuff look good. Okay? But part of my product management role was strategic planning on a fiscal basis. Okay, now for the Mary Kay year, this would be a great exercise to go through. We're coming up on July 1st. What's the worst thing you could do about your goal next year? Is wait until July 1st to think about it. Okay? Now, if you are racing towards a really, 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 really big goal between now and June 30th, I give you permission to, in the wee hours of the night, let this cross your mind. Okay? But really, do you know how we got off to the biggest start 2 years ago when we did my first $1 million year? It's because in July, everybody else went on vacation. And we popped, I forget, it was like a $50,000, $60,000 month in July, but here's the thing, it was my first July. I didn't know people didn't do that. Okay, it was just another month to me. So I want you to not shoot yourself in the foot, because there comes a time when more of the same just isn't going to cut it. And we've got to do something different in order to produce different results, right? Okay, but this is a great exercise to look at from starting July 1st through June 30th. But you know what? For right now, you could do it for the next 6 weeks. You could have a 6-week trial strategic plan to get you ready and work all the kinks out for your first annual strategic plan, right? Okay, all you numbers people, let's do a quick geometry lesson. What's the shortest distance between 2 points? A straight line. That's exactly right, okay? So I want you to pull out a new piece of paper, like clean piece of paper. Okay. Let's go ahead and do June 1st through July 30th just for exercise's sake, okay? So at the top of your page, I want you to draw a little dot and the letter A. Like point A. Okay? And then I want you to write your name. And I want you to write July 1st, 2007. Is that right? Did I say June 1st? Because I meant July 1st. Come on, y'all. I need y'all to read my mind in times like this, okay? The new seminar year is what we're doing here. July 1st through June 30th. Thank y'all. Okay. Does it make more sense now? Good, I'm glad we're all on the same page. Okay, thanks for staying with me. July 1st, 2007. I do have the right year, yes? Okay. So your name, July 1st, 2007, and then I want you to write your title. Whatever your title in the Mary Kay Career Path will be at that time. On July 1st. Okay, and then whatever sort of descriptions you need to write about yourself, like if you're a sales director, what will your unit size be? Okay, if you're a team leader, whatever descriptions that you want to write about your business, what your customer base is, whatever things you think describe your current state of affairs, what that will look like on July 1st, okay? Then I want you to go down about 3/4 of the way down your page. And I want you to write a little dot and the letter B, creating point B, right? And then I want you to write June 30th, 2008. And then if you were creating your strategic plan, what you would do is you would write what you want your title to be at that time and what you want all the descriptions to be. So like, for example, if I were planning out my $1 million year, I would probably put my unit size at the top. I would put my unit size at the bottom of what I would want that growth to look like. I would account for offspring coming out. I would put my new number of offspring at the bottom. All the things that relate to how I want to finish the year. And when I walk across the seminar stage, that next year at Seminar 2008, what do I want my accolades to be saying about the things I've done in that year? Make sense? If it's National Court of Sales, National Court of Sharing, Trip, Cadillac, Grand Prix, Vibe, whatever the case may be. Okay? Now, your strategic plan is what takes you from point A to point B. It's your roadmap between the two. So I want you to connect those dots, keeping in mind that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. There are no shortcuts in Mary Kay. And you can take as many detours as you choose to take. Okay? Then what you would do is you would cut that right in half and give yourself a little hash mark halfway down that line, and that would be Christmas. That would be January 1st. And then Mary Kay has helped us out because they've divided it even once more with the quarters. So you can literally break it down and work backwards. You start with your finish line and work backward to create the plan to get you where you want to go. Because it's really hard to get to the destination if you don't know where it is, you don't know what it looks like, you don't have the map to get there, right? But let me share something with you. I believe the single biggest source of frustration in this business is when what we say we want does not equal the amount of work that we're willing to put in. I remember hearing John Maxwell say that he would have just floods of people come up to him and saying, gosh, I just really would love to be where you are. I'd love to be where you are. I'd love to be where you are. And his answer was, sure, you'd love to be where I am. But would you be willing to do what I've done to get here? So are you willing to put in the work? And to be honest with yourself. Don't set yourself up for imminent failure because you really have no intention of doing the work that it takes to get there. Now, I will be honest with you. I think some people are afraid because they just don't know what the work would look like. And can I just promise you that if you step into it, it's so much fun. And you have such joy and such excitement that when you're really working with 100% intention of reaching the goal, that you don't feel tired. Because you have the energy and the success and the results that come with it. But it is possible just to go through the motions so that you can say to yourself that you're doing the work. But you have no real intention of achieving the results. And so it's empty motion. And that is extremely tiring. Because there's nothing worse than taking time away from your family to go to an event that you expect to get nothing out of. And if I'm going to leave my cute husband, by golly, you better believe I'm going to get something out of it. Because it is not worth my time to go somewhere to do something with somebody that is not going to produce fruit. Now, does it mean that all the results magically appear right there on the spot? Of course not. But in order to reap the reward, you must first plant the crop, and then you must sow the field. Right? Okay, so you literally break it down. You take your finish line, you get your halfway point, then you break it down and you've got your 4 quarters. Y'all following me so far? Okay, now this is actually going to turn into a quick discussion on time management, because I truly believe time management will make or break you. I do not care how skilled you are. If you do not have time management under control, you will not last. You know, it's a wide belief in Mary Kay that there are 4 arenas that will make or break you. Skill management, time management, money management, and emotional management. And if you can master these 4 areas, you are with us for the long haul. Okay, so with your time management, then you've got your quarters, okay? You drill down from your quarters to your month at a glance sheet. Do y'all know what that is? Your month at a glance. It's in your black planner. It's the sheet where you see the whole month at a glance. Okay, so you take that and you decide, when am I going to work? When am I going to hold appointments? What am I doing this month? A lack of time is not the problem. A lack of proactive planning is the problem. We all have 168 hours in a week, 24 hours in a day. So in that month at a glance sheet, let me give you an example. My goal for 3 years was that I will hold 4 to 6 appointments a week every week without fail. And so I would look at my month and decide when those appointments were going to be. When I was a consultant and I was still working a full-time job and in graduate school, my goal was to hold appointments on Tuesdays and Saturdays and bring guests to my Monday night meetings. And so I mean, it was clockwork. I lived by it. I had no spare time. If I was not living by the plan, everything would fall apart. Now, does that mean that every week looked perfect? I mean, whoever actually has their results finished the way that the plan started? Nobody. But you are going to end up a lot better off if you start with a plan, right? Okay, so when I was booking classes as a consultant, I would say to my customers, I hold appointments on Tuesdays and Saturdays, which is better for you. And then I didn't have to live at the mercy of anybody else. I mean, your hairstylist does that, your dentist does that. Why do we think, oh, just what's good for you? Why do we do that? Because it also makes us look a little pathetic. You know, we do want to look successful and in demand, do we not? Okay? So you take your month at a glance sheet and you like circle in pink highlighter or green highlighter something when you are going to hold those appointments. And you plan nothing else in that time. Because if you do not give this business the respect it deserves, nobody else will either. And when your family starts to understand, guess what? When you turn it on when you should, you can turn it off when you want to. When I was first getting started with this business, I felt like I ate and slept and breathed Mary Kay, and I couldn't stop thinking about it and stop talking about it, and I was consumed with it. Have you ever felt that way? Guess what? I wasn't doing squat. Okay? I was busy, but I wasn't productive. And the second that I chose to get extremely disciplined with not only my time, but also with what I was doing in that time, I could mark the things off my list that I had planned to do, and then I could turn it off guilt-free instead of being only halfway present to everything I was doing, because that serves no one well. And when your family learns you can turn it off, they'll be okay when it's time to turn it on. But who's the parent? And who's learning from who? Okay? And y'all, change is not always a pleasant thing. And it's certainly not easy to make change. But is it worth it? It's so worth it. Okay, so you take that month at a glance, you circle when those appointments will be, and then that month at a glance is what drills down to your weekly plan sheet. It breaks my heart when I hear consultants and directors say, I just can't make that thing work for me. I've tried it, it just doesn't work. And once again, I would have to say, it's a piece of paper. It's not going to work for nobody. You have to make it work for you. And literally, to this day, I could not survive. I could not function. My world would internally combust without the weekly plan sheet. To this day. And literally every Sunday night, I sit down for 30 minutes. And I take 15 minutes and I reevaluate the past week. What went well? What didn't go well? What can I cross off my list? What do I need to look at this next week? What are the big things that are coming up? Who do I need to focus on this week? I do that for 15 minutes, I look back. And then for 15 minutes, I plan out the coming week. And girls, that 30 minutes every Sunday night literally saves me hours of lost time in the following week. Okay, and then the last piece of this strategic plan and this strategic planning process is your 6 most important things list. And I think that sometimes people forget exactly how the 6 most important things list was intended to be used. And if you've read Mary Kay's autobiography recently, first of all, let me just say, if you haven't read it at all, that would be the single number one most important item of business when you get home. Because I sometimes think about how, Mary Kay had a lifetime of wisdom. And she was wise enough to know that she needed to put things in place that she could leave with us when she was no longer here. And of all the volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of things that she could have left, she left us with a paperback that's 1 inch thick. How strongly do you think she felt about that information? She had to let everything else go and just leave us with that much information. How strongly do you think she felt about it? And if she dedicated an entire chapter in that book to time management and delegation, how important do you think that was to her? How important do you think she thought it was for us? And I believe that there comes a point in every consultant's life when you're no longer just in Mary Kay, but Mary Kay is in you. And I don't know how you would ever reach that point if you didn't know her. And I have never had the honor and the privilege of knowing Mary Kay Ash personally, and neither has anyone else in my entire organization. And that is a responsibility that I take very, very seriously, because we all know that we are only one generation away from losing this heritage that she worked so hard. She literally gave her life so that women could have one. And we are one generation away from losing that heritage and that culture. And so I really believe that trying to run a Mary Kay business successfully without having read her autobiography would be like trying to buy out another corporation without having read the mission statement. It just wouldn't work. Okay, and in the chapter about the 6 most important things list, she gives specific instructions on how to make it powerful for use. And so to save time, I'm not going to regurgitate that to you. You can go home and read that yourself. But she does say that it needs to be at night, the night before, not the next morning, because that first morning is that first hour is your most powerful hour. And we lose all of our power trying to clean up the mess from yesterday. And so I don't care how tired you are. If you got to put toothpicks in your eyeballs, do it. Okay? For the 15 minutes that it will take you at night. Because guess what else? It is a law of psychology that your brain works while you're sleeping to find solutions to the unfinished list. Did you know that? Why do you think it is that you have some of your best ideas first thing in the morning, in the shower? How many of you need a dry erase board in the shower? I'm going to have one, okay? So, but please hear me on this. This is a big mistake that a lot of people make. Your 6 most important things list is not your strategic plan. It's the daily implementation of the activity that is going to make your plan the reality. Make sense? Okay. I want to share you just a couple of last things with you before we take our break before the guest event tonight. One of the things that I want to share with you is how important it is to really look at this business logically. And of course, you know that we're either a thinker or a feeler, right? And as a feeler, it sometimes is a little bit more challenging to take a true, detached, logical look at your business. And I think if we're not looking at it logically, and if we're not looking at it as a true business, if you treat it like a business, it'll pay you like a business. If you treat it like a hobby, it'll pay you like a hobby. But honestly, do hobbies pay you money or cost you money? Cost, okay? And that's okay if you're in it for a hobby and you want to just, you love the products, you want to buy the stuff, support the team, all that, that's great. But let's be clear on what your intentions are and don't lie to yourself about the reality, okay? But if you're taking that logical look, what I want you to understand is that business is business is business. And in any business, I don't care if you're selling coffee, if you're selling skincare, cosmetics, tires, I don't care what you're selling, there is an ebb and flow of business. That's just, and some of the flow is based on the fiscal year. Some of it's based on seasons, different cycles, whatever the case may be. Like, for example, people don't sell a lot of RVs in December. Okay, and it doesn't mean that the owners of the RV park question their future and their intention based on the lack of business in December. They understand the ebb and flow of their business. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Okay, so when you're looking at it like a business, the objective of any business is that you maximize the high seasons and you minimize the low season. But when you're looking at it on the long-term scale and you understand that you're in it for the long haul, whenever there is a low season in your business, it doesn't require that you doubt what you're doing. And it doesn't require that you doubt the business because it's not a flaw in the Mary Kay business. It's just a rule of business, period. And will some months be better than others? Sure. But guess what? You're not dependent on any one individual. And it's up to is our business dependent on people? Yes, absolutely it is. Okay, like I said a little while ago, it's one of the best and worst things about our business is it's a people business. Okay? However, if you feel dependent on people, you'll always feel like the victim. You're always just at the mercy of whatever they decide to do. But if we take the ownership of working the numbers, who controls the amount of numbers that we work? We do. And if we just release the emotion and are willing to crank the volume, does that mean that we're seeing people as just numbers? No. But it means that you can have the detachment, that we have the privilege that building our business allows us to build people. But in order to successfully survive in the long term, we have to be willing to separate the emotion and just roll up our sleeves and put in the elbow grease when the elbow grease is needed. You follow me on that? Okay. And then the last thing that I want to share with you just very quickly is, I'm proud to say, and I say this all the time, that I am absolutely a believer. And to give you an accurate understanding of why it is that I'm even so excited about this, and to even help you understand the motivation and why I do what I do, and how my faith has played such a big role in this business, I do have to share with you that from day one, I have always prayed for wisdom and humility. Two things. And it's kind of silly when you're talking about humility. It doesn't seem like they really go together, but y'all hear the intention of what I'm sharing with you here, right? Okay, and then as I started to reach success, another thing that I started praying for was that people would not be impressed with Allison Lamar, but that people would be able to see how, number one, how our God is a God of abundance. And aren't we so grateful that he sent us Mary Kay, that we can live out the excellence that he put us on this earth for, and that we can do it through our business. And number two, that we truly, truly, truly can use this business to just share the message that we are so excited about. And that I don't think everybody has to share your faith. And I don't think that we have to force our faith on other people. But if you know what's important to you, it will keep you going amidst all the other doubts. And I love, I get tickled sometimes at all the different parallels between our Mary Kay business and through a Christian walk. And I think it's no coincidence that, of course, Mary Kay was a believer. And I mean, she set up the motto of our company that we would always operate on the golden rule. That is no coincidence. Would you agree? Okay. But along those same lines, even if you look at, for example, your salvation is what gets you in the doors of heaven. But we can, while we're on this earth, work to build up treasures in heaven for when we get there. And not because we're doing the work so that we can have the treasure someday, but because we're so excited about it that we can't help but share it with other people, right? Okay, so transfer that to your Mary Kay business, okay? You get your starter kit and you just choose to accept the starter kit, and that gets you in to the banquet table, right? That gets you in to the party. But it doesn't give us entitlement to everything else that comes along with it, right? We still have to choose to be disciplined, and we have to choose to do the work. Are you with me? Okay? And then think about this. Think about all the different prizes that we can earn. And when I think about the treasures in heaven, okay, the streets are going to be made of gold. So that means heaven's asphalt is gold. Okay? So I don't think we really are thinking big enough for what we can expect whenever we get there. But here's the thing. If we know that, and then I think about the Cadillacs and the diamonds and the trips and the vacations and the cars and all the prizes that we have, you know, I sometimes think, isn't God just so great that he gives us these little bitty, tiny, minuscule, mankind-size gifts on this earth just as rewards because he loves us for a job well done? And sometimes I see people criticize Mary Kay on the outside looking in because they just don't get it. And they're like, oh, it's so superficial. Oh, it's materialistic. Oh, sure, why do they just sit around and talk about cars and money all the time and diamonds? Okay, they just don't get it. It doesn't even do you any good to argue with those people because it is impossible to put an 11 by 17 dream into a 3 by 5 mind. And the Bible also says, thank you. Okay, the Bible also says that you love your enemies. And it says you turn your cheek 7 times 70. And God does not need us to defend. We are called, it is better to do the right thing than to be right. And so the best thing we can do whenever you're feeling criticized is you girls dig in those heels like nobody's business. And you hold fast. Because whenever you flip over onto the defensive, we always come out clawing. And it's better to do the right thing. And the truth of the matter is, those aren't just materialistic, superficial carrots, are they? It's Mary Kay's way of saying thank you. Thank you for a job well done. You know, I read an article recently that the single biggest complaint of women in the workforce is that we feel underappreciated. Is that we work so hard for so little gratitude. And if somebody would just say thank you, we would willingly do it 100 more times. And this is just Mary Kay's way of saying thank you. Thank you for a job well done. Thank you for running your race. Your starter kit got you into the track. And the whole world of opportunity is there waiting for you. But it's up to you to run your race. It is totally up to you to make that decision. And I want you to remember that you are one decision away from the person that you want to be. You are one decision away from the life that you want to live. So can I just say, whatever it is that's holding you back, whatever it is that's hanging you up, you've just got to let it go. Release it. Forgive yourself. Forgive whoever else it is that you are allowing to keep you from your finish line. All those things happened in the past. Girls, I don't care if it was 5 minutes ago. It's in the past. And you are not that person anymore. Who you are in this moment is just the collective result of the decisions you made up until now. And who you will be tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day and at Seminar 2008 is just the sum total of the decisions that you make from this point forward. You are not that person anymore. So let's very quickly, in summary, talk about what you are going to do when you get home. many of you, seriously, you've got some work to do when you get home. Are you ready? Okay, first of all, you've got to get extremely clear on your goal. I think we've talked about that enough today. Would you agree? Yes. Number 2, you're going to have to identify the short-term sacrifice that will be required. Because remember, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So you will have to give up some things in the short term. So what are those short-term sacrifices going to be? Number 3, you're going to have a heart-to-heart conversation with your family. And remember that communication is the root of every relationship. And lack of communication is usually the downfall of a relationship. And so nobody but you knows all the things that we've talked about today. And if you go home and with that one decision you become a different person, they're not expecting the new person to walk in the door. Right? So you have to share that with them. Oh my gosh, and you're going to tell them and you're going to show them what's in it for them and help them see, get them on board. And you're going to tell them, I need your help. In order for us as a family to get to this destination, this is what's required. This is what the plan's going to look like. This is what the short-term sacrifice is going to look like. Here's how you can help. Here's what I promise to you. And ask them, would you be willing to run this race with me if I promised you it would take us to our finish line as a family? They would not know what hit them. Would you agree? Is it worth it to get uncomfortable to have those conversations? And remember, people support that which they help to create. So if you involve them in the process, help them set a goal. What would make it worth it to them? Just like you've got your Star Consultant Prize and your Top Director Prize, give them a prize. What would they get excited about? What would cause them to get on board? And whatever they pick, identify a goal for yourself that would make their goal worth it. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So if they say, I want to go to Disney World, what would you need to do to make Disney World feasible? Okay? And then every time you leave the house, you show them that picture of Mickey Mouse. Okay? Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to have the conversation with the not so supportive friends and family. And that conversation is going to sound like one of two things. Your first attempt may be, you know what, honestly, this train is leaving the station. Are you on or are you off? And if they choose off, you look at them and you tell them, I love you. And that's okay. And I will talk to you in July. And I will send you a postcard from Munich, because that's where the Top Director trip is next year. But until you get clear, nobody else will. And up until now, if they don't believe what you're saying, it's because you haven't acted on what you've been saying. So it's no one's responsibility for what they do or don't believe. It's your responsibility for being true to your word. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to trash your house with your goal posters and your dream boards. And if you have an old goal poster, take it down. Because all it does, seriously, some of you has been looking at the same goal poster for 6 years. Okay, and all it tells you, every time you look at that, you go, oh, there's another goal I didn't meet. And it becomes something you don't really even expect to do anymore, but literally the paint has faded behind it because it's been there for so long. So I don't care if you put the same goal back up, but make a new poster. Okay? And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to make your booking calls. And if you've got to start with that guilt list, start with the guilt list.